Hello. So today in marketing, we are going to be talking about pricing. We're going to be talking about understanding and capturing customer value with our pricing. And this is chapter 9. Okay, there we go. So let's talk about the major pricing strategies that are out there. So companies today, they face a very fierce, a very fast-paced, ever-changing environment in terms of pricing. Value-seeking customers, people that want to get a good deal, they want to get the most bang for their buck, have put increased pricing pressures on these companies. Today's consumers are pursuing more frugal spending strategies due to tight economic times in recent years. Think about all the inflation that we've been going through in the last couple of years. The pricing power of the internet, that we can now search the price of anything anywhere. We didn't have this before the internet. You actually had to go physically and look at prices in brick and mortar stores. And value-driven retailers like Amazon and Walmart that have very low margins. So we're very cognizant of how important pricing is as marketers. So in response to this, in customers wanting low prices, good value, companies have been looking for ways to cut pricing. However, if we are reducing our pricing unnecessarily, this can lead us inevitably to losing profits or perhaps damaging price wars between us and our competitors. It can also cheapen our brand value. If we are cutting our prices arbitrarily, that could signal to customers that price is more important than the quality or the value that we deliver. So it could start to signal and kind of damage our reputation and our brand, especially as it comes to quality level. So instead, what we should do, instead of just arbitrarily cutting prices because consumers want that, in both good economic times and in bad economic times, we should sell value. We should sell value, not price. Now, what this means that we could be selling lesser products at rock bottom prices. But in most cases, it means persuading customers that if they are going to be paying a higher price, they're going to gain additional value. Our higher price is because we have a higher value. So we want to try to sell that, is that we are selling value, not price. So the definition of price, and this is something that you'll want to know, this is the money charged for a product or service. Or the alternative, it could be the sum of values that customers exchange for the benefit of having or using the product or service. It could be their opportunity cost. It may not necessarily be money that they're using. It could be some other form of payment. And historically, price has been a major factor, if not the most important factor that affects buyer choice in terms of which company they're going to choose from, which product or service are they going to buy. Price is incredibly important. Think about how important price is to you. I'm sure that when you are looking for something to buy, looking for a soft drink, the first thing that you look at, or one of the first things that you look at, is the price. It's very important to us as consumers. However, in recent decades, in the last 20, 30, 40 years, non-price factors have really gained an increasing importance in consumer decisions. Although, again, price does remain one of the most important elements that determines our market share and our profitability as a company. So there are lots of other things that are important. But price is pretty unique in terms of the marketing mix of our 4 Ps. Price is the only element of the marketing mix that actually produces revenue, that actually makes us money. All of the other elements represent some sort of cost to us. So we're technically losing money to do all the other 4 Ps. Price is the only element that actually makes us money. So that makes it very unique in terms of our marketing mix in the 4Ps. It's also one of the most flexible marketing mix elements. So our product features or our channels that we're choosing to distribute or sell our products through, we can't change those. A lot of times there's long-term commitments, or we have to go back in the manufacturing process. But prices, these can be changed overnight. We could change those at the drop of a hat. So it's very flexible, very reactive, whereas the other 4Ps are not quite so flexible, quite so reactive. And prices also have a direct impact on our bottom line as a company. So a very small improvement in price can generate a very large percentage increase in profitability if we do it right. And it really plays a key role in creating customer value and building those long-term customer relationships as part of our overall value proposition as a company. So price, you could see why it's very important, why there's a whole chapter that's dedicated solely to price. So the price that a company charges is going to fall somewhere between a price that is too low to produce a profit. We can't stay in business because our prices are just too darn low. We can't make money. Or a price that is too high to produce any demand. No consumer is willing to buy our product at the price we're at. So we've got a price ceiling, which is the highest, and then we've got a price floor, which is going to be the lowest. So customers' perceptions about the product's value is going to set that ceiling, the max that we can charge. The absolute highest that we can set the price is that ceiling. So if customers could perceive that our product's price is greater than its value, they will not buy the product. Now, the product cost, how much it costs us as a company to make the product, sets the floor for a product's price. This is the absolute lowest price that we can set. If we put our prices below what it costs us, that means we're essentially losing money on this product. So that is how we're setting the price floor and the price ceiling. So between these two extremes of the floor and the ceiling, the right pricing strategy is one that delivers both value to the customer, the end consumer who's buying this, and also profits the company. We want to find that fine balance in between that price floor and that price ceilings. We've also got to consider a lot of other external and internal factors when setting price. We have to look at our competitors' strategies in pricing. If I am Burger King and McDonald's is selling 99-cent hamburgers, I'm probably going to have to do the same. I can't be charging $3 for a hamburger because everyone's just going to go to McDonald's. So we've got to be keen and aware of what our competitors are doing in terms of their pricing. We have to be aware of our overall marketing strategy and our marketing mix. Price is going to affect every other aspect of our marketing mix and the nature of the market in demand. And we're going to talk more about some just very general economic terms as it comes to demand and price. So 3 of the major pricing strategies that are out there are customer value-based pricing, cost-based pricing, and competition-based pricing. And we're going to go over all 3 of these. So customer value-based pricing. This is setting price based on a buyer's perceptions of value rather than the seller's cost. So we are going to set the price based on how our customers perceive it, as opposed to what it actually costs us as a company to make this. So in the end, the customer is always right. The customer is going to decide whether the product's price is right. The pricing decision that we make as a company must start with customer value. And typically price must be considered with all the other marketing mix variables before our marketing program is set. So I'll give you an example of customer value-based pricing. So a pair of Yeezys, these very funky looking shoes that I've got here, I don't think they're Adidas and Yeezy and Kanye West are no longer in collaboration. So this was a few years ago, but a pair of Yeezys, again, these very bizarre looking shoes, only cost Adidas $76 to manufacture. However, if you actually went out and bought a pair of Yeezys, which many people did, you would be paying around $350. And that is because Adidas uses a customer value-based pricing strategy. They focused on what the customer felt the value of this was rather than what it cost Adidas to actually produce these shoes. So they had a customer value-based pricing strategy for the Yeezy shoe. And an offset of customer value-based pricing is good value pricing. This is offering just the right combination of quality and good service at a fair price. Recent years have seen a shift in consumer attitudes towards price and quality. Increasingly, we want to know we are getting good value for our money. We have a lot of transparency with the internet. We want to make sure we're getting the most bang for our buck. So in response to this, many companies have changed their pricing approaches and brought them more in line with these changing price and value perceptions. So what good value pricing this has involved is introducing less expensive versions of very established brand name products or new, more lower priced lines. In other cases, good value pricing involves redesigning existing brands to offer more quality for a given price or the same quality for less. Some companies even succeed by offering less value but at very low prices. So if you've ever flown on one of the budget airlines like Spirit Airlines or Allegiant Air, these Spirit Airlines give customer what they call bare fare pricing, which they get less, but they don't pay for what they don't get. So you're not going to be able to recline your seat. You're going to have a hard plastic seat. You aren't going to get your free drink. You aren't going to get to bring your bag on, but you are going to get from point A to point B on an airplane. So this is an example of good value pricing. You're paying for exactly what you're getting. And value added pricing. So this is attaching value-added features and services to differentiate our company's offering and justifying charging higher prices. So rather than simply just cutting our prices to match our competitors, let's say we're Burger King, we're charging $3 for a cheeseburger, but McDonald's is selling it for 99 cents. We're going to add higher quality, better services, more value-added features. Maybe we've got bacon, special cheese, pretzel bun, something that can support higher pricing. So that's value-added pricing. When you're getting more bells and whistles to substantiate charging a higher price compared to your competitors. So another example is the brand Bose. So they make high quality kind of sound systems, headphones. They don't try to beat their competition by cutting costs, by offering discounts, or making more affordable versions of their products. They have very high-end products that are a little bit pricey. Instead, Bose poured all the resources into things like R&D, like innovation, to create really high quality products that merit the premium prices it charges. And of course, you're getting better sound, you're getting those bells and whistles, better quality. This is considered value-added pricing. You're getting more bang for your buck. Now let's go to our next one, which is cost-based pricing. So this would be a strategy where a company would set prices based on the cost of producing, distributing, and selling the product, plus some sort of fair rate of return for effort and risk, so some sort of profit. A company's costs are usually a very important element of our pricing strategies. So companies that have really low margins in terms of their consumer goods, like Walmart, like Amazon, like Spirit Airlines, have worked very diligently to become the low-cost producers in their industries. And companies with these lower costs can set lower prices. They result in smaller margins, but if they've got huge volume, greater sales, they're going to have larger overall profits. So this is based on where we're going to base our prices based on what it costs us to actually make, distribute, and create the product, plus some sort of profit margin. However, there are other companies. There are companies like Apple, like BMW, like Steinway. They make pianos. they intentionally pay higher costs so they can add value and claim higher prices and margins. The key is to manage that spread between cost and prices, how much the company makes for the customer, and the value it delivers. So again, Steinway. So for any of my pianists out there, so it costs a lot more to make one of these very fancy handcrafted Steinway's pianos than it does for just a simple Yamaha. But the higher costs result in higher quality. And in Steinway's mind, this justifies having an average piano price of almost $90,000. So for those people who are buying a Steinway, price is nothing. It is worth that $90,000 because the Steinway experience and the quality that you are getting makes up for that. So let's talk about some basics in terms of cost-based pricing. Let's talk about the different types of costs. So in terms of very general costing, typically a company's costs are going to take up two forms. We've got our fixed costs and we've got our variable costs. And you see here, I've got this little picture right here. And on the bottom, you see our fixed costs. Now, regardless of the quantity of product that we are making, that fixed cost remains the same. And with our variable costs, you see here our quantity, as the quantity of whatever we are producing or manufacturing, as it goes up, that continues to increase. So it's going to vary based on the quantity that we are making. Fixed cost doesn't change, variable cost will vary. So fixed costs, also known as overhead, costs that do not vary with production or sales level. So some examples of overhead or fixed costs. Every month, a company's got to pay bills for rent, for utilities, for the water, for the sewage, for the heat, for interest on loans, for their insurance, for executive salaries, regardless of how many widgets they make. So that is a fixed cost. It's always going to be the same, regardless of how much we are selling or producing. So it's always going to remain the same. And then we've got our variable costs. These costs are going to vary directly. They're going to fluctuate depending on the level of production or quantity that we are producing or selling. So for example, each smartphone or tablet that Samsung makes involves, we've got computer chips, we've got wires, we've got plastic, we've got packaging, we've got other inputs, we've got special glass. So although these costs tend to be the same for each smartphone that we're producing, they're variable because the total will vary with the number of units produced. If we produce one, our cost is going to be very low. If we produce 100, our cost is going to be higher. So these variable costs will vary. It's right in the name, variable. It will vary based on the number, the quantity that we are producing or selling. And then the total cost. This is just adding up fixed costs and variable costs. It's a sum of fixed and variable costs for any given level of production. So we want to charge a price that will cover at least the total production costs at any given level of production. So we've got to be very diligent and watch our costs carefully. If it costs us more than our competitors to produce and sell a product, then we are either going to need to charge a higher price or make less profit, and we're going to be at a competitive disadvantage either way. So we want to be very careful of what our total costs are. So the last one is cost plus pricing, or this is called markup pricing. This is adding a standard markup to the cost of the product. This is the simplest method of all the pricing strategies. We are just going to take exactly what it costs us, and we are going to add some kind of markup, a profit, and then we're going to get our final price. And again, it is a very commonly used, very simple, but we're not taking into account our customer demand. We're not taking into account our competitor pricing. So it's probably not going to lead us to the best possible price given all the different variables out there. But markup pricing remains popular for a few reasons. We're very certain about our costs. We can know our costs down to the penny. We're Whereas demand is always fluctuating. We're always trying to forecast it. It's always unknown. By tying our price to our known costs, we're just going to simplify it for us. So it's simpler. We're more certain about it. We know what it is. And second, kind of like back when you were doing crazy things with your young friends, and your mom would ask you, if all your friends jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge too? It's kind of like that. If all your competitors, if all the firms in the industry are using markup pricing, what the heck? I'm going to jump off that bridge too. So if we're all using that same strategy, all of our prices are probably going to be very similar and the price competition is minimized. So it just makes it very simple. And then we've got break-even pricing, or what is sometimes called target return pricing. This is setting a price to break even on the cost of making and marketing a product to make some sort of target return. So we try to determine a price that is going to break even or make some kind of profit. So we want to find that intersection between where we're going to break even between our loss and profit. The weaknesses with break-even pricing is that it fails to consider our customer value, and again, those relationships between price and demand. Typically, as price increases, the quantity demanded by consumers decreases. The market may not even buy enough volume needed to break even at the higher price. So that's the danger in this, is that we're not taking into account economic factors and how demand is impacted by different costs. And then we've got competition-based pricing. This involves setting prices based on our competitors, what their strategies are, what their costs are, what their pricing is. And again, consumers are going to base their judgment of our product's value on the prices that our competitors are charging for similar products. So this is where we're going to look to the marketplace and look at our competitors and try to copy them and try to figure out what is the best strategy for us given what our competition is doing. And again, there's going to be tons of variables we've got to think of with pricing, a lot of internal and external considerations that we've got to consider during our pricing decisions. So our internal factors include our marketing strategy, our marketing objectives, the other elements of our marketing mix. And the external factors include the market, include demand, and all these other environmental factors. So in terms of our overall marketing strategy, price is only one single element of our broader marketing strategy. So before we set the price, we have got to decide on our overall marketing strategy for our product or service. So obviously, if we are going to try to take a more elevated, more highbrow positioning, that would dictate charging a premium price. So we've got to figure out what our overall strategy is before we can actually set the price. And the price decision has to also be coordinated with our product design, with our distribution channels, with our promotion and advertisement decisions to form a very consistent and effective marketing mix. So decisions made for the marketing mix variables, for all these other variables that we have, may affect our pricing decisions. So for example, if we make a decision to position the product on high performance quality, that means that we're going to need to charge higher prices to cover our costs. So again, we've got to think about product, place, and promotion while we're coming up with our pricing decisions, because they all are affected. They all affect each other. And companies are often going to position their products on price, and then they're going to tailor all the other marketing mix decisions to charge the price that they want. So they're going to work backwards. They're going to start with price, and then they're going to figure out everything else after price. So this is also called target pricing, and it's pricing that starts with setting an ideal selling price and then target everything else, all those other costs, to ensure that that price is met, and kind of work backwards based on that target price. And some organizational considerations that we've got to decide when we are making pricing decisions is management has got to decide who within the organization is going to set the prices. Companies can set pricing in a variety of ways in terms of whom is the person that makes the final decision. In very small companies, prices are often set by top management, rather than by marketing or sales departments. In really large companies, Fortune 500 companies, pricing is typically handled by divisional or product managers. And in industrial markets, salespeople have a lot of leeway. They may be allowed to negotiate with consumers regarding certain price ranges. So it's really going to vary based on what kind of company you're at, who is actually going to decide what the price gets to be. So let's talk about the market and demand. So good pricing, if we're going to have a good pricing strategy, we've got to understand how customers' perceptions of value affect the prices they are willing to pay. So both consumer and industrial buyers are going to balance the price of a product or service against the benefits of owning it. They're going to do that cost benefit analysis to determine, is this price right? So before we actually set our prices, we as marketers must understand the relationship between price and demand for companies' products. So we're going to talk a little bit about some just very general economic topics here as we talk about price. So if we are a seller, a company that's selling on the marketplace, our pricing freedom is going to vary depending on the type of market that we're in. So economists typically are going to recognize 4 different types of markets. So we've got perfect competition, we've got monopolistic competition, we've got oligopolistic competition, and we've got a pure monopoly. And you can see here from this visual that I've got on the slide, in terms of kind of where each of these different types of markets lie with in terms of competition and in terms of concentration. So we're going to go through each of these. So perfect competition. So the market here consists of many different buyers, many different sellers that are trading usually a very uniform commodity. So something that is undifferentiated. So wheat, copper, grain, financial securities. And if you are in a perfect competition market, no single buyer and no single seller has really much effect on the going market price. So market research, product development, pricing, advertising, sales play little or no role. You don't really see grain companies, copper companies that have advertisements out there because it just doesn't make sense for the type of market. So sellers in these markets really do not spend a lot of time on marketing strategy because they can't really have a big effect on price. And then we've got monopolistic competition. This is a market that consists of many buyers, many sellers that are trading over a range of prices rather than just one single market price. So this range of prices that we get occurs because the sellers can differentiate their offers to buyers. Think about breakfast cereals. This is a perfect example of monopolistic competition. When you go to the grocery store and you walk down the aisle with breakfast cereals, there's an entire row just dedicated to breakfast cereals. There are all different flavors, all different sizes. There's huge differentiation in breakfast cereals. So there's a range of prices for all these things. Some other examples of monopolistic competition are fast food. There's tons of options for fast food. There's hotel chains, and they can be all very different. And because there are so many competitors, each firm is less affected by competitors' pricing strategies compared to like what we'll talk about next is oligopolistic competition. So instead of really focusing on price, sellers really try to more focused on creating and developing differentiated offers for different customer segments, as opposed to really focusing on price. So oligopolistic competition. This is when the market consists of only a few very large sellers. So because there are so few sellers in the marketplace, each seller is very alert, very responsive, very aware of what their competitors are doing and their marketing moves. And price is a major competitive tool. So a great example of oligopolistic competition is cable satellite television. There are only a handful of providers that you can get, and they are keeping a close eye on the pricing strategies of their other competitors, because If one lowers their price, you're going to switch to them. So price is a major competitive tool in oligopolistic competition where there's only a few very large sellers. And our last market that we're going to talk about is a pure monopoly. This is when the market is dominated by only one seller. And monopolies are very unique. The seller could be a government monopoly. For example, the U.S. Postal Service is considered a monopoly. It could be a private regulated monopoly, like a power company. Or it could be a private unregulated monopoly, like De Beers in the diamond market. And pricing is handled differently in each case. And there's also laws and things that we've got to take into consideration. So we're not going to talk too deeply about monopolies because they're pretty rare. But pricing is handled differently in each case, depending on the type of monopoly, the type of industry, the type of company. So now we're going to look at analyzing the price-demand relationship. So every single price that a company is going to charge is going to lead to a different level of quantity demanded. So you've probably taken economics before, I hope. What I'm showing you right here is the demand curve. So this shows the number of units that the market will buy in a given time period at different prices that might be charged. In normal cases, this is a downward sloping curve, and quantity demanded and price are inversely related. So if the price goes up, the quantity demanded goes down. If the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. So they're inversely related in normal situations. And understanding our own unique demand curve is crucial to making good pricing decisions. Most companies will try to measure and create their own demand curves by estimating demand at different prices. The type of market is also going to make a difference. If we are facing very steep competition, the demand at different prices is also going to depend on whether our competitors' prices stay constant or they're going to change with our prices. So it becomes very difficult to actually analyze this given all the real world and external situations that could happen. We also need to know about market elasticity as marketers when we're setting price. So we need to understand price elasticity. So what price elasticity is, this is a measure of the sensitivity of demand to changes in price. So if our demand does not change or barely changes, if there's a change in price, it is considered inelastic. It is not stretching at all. Now, if demand changes greatly with price, it is elastic. It is like that elastic band. It is stretching. If our price changes, our demand is stretching with it. So you'll see here, I've just got, and again, you don't need to know these for the test. I'm not going to make you do graphs or anything, but you need to understand if something is inelastic, if the price changes, demand will not change or will only change a little bit. If something is elastic, if the price changes, the demand is going to greatly change. So examples of products that have inelastic demand. So the demand is not going to change or only changes slightly with the change in price. Think about your utilities. You're always going to need to keep the heat on in the winter. You're always going to need electricity to keep the lights on. You're always going to need gas in your car. These are things that in the short term are very inelastic because we need them to survive, to function day to day. So even if gas prices double, which we've seen, they've gotten over $4 or $5, people will still buy gas. So it's very inelastic. Even if the pricing changes, demand remains relatively constant. If you need life-saving prescription drugs, even if the price is going to triple, quadruple, increase exponentially, you're still going to buy those because you need those to live. Anything that involves vices, gambling, addiction, alcohol, tobacco products, because of the unique nature of human addiction, we need them. If you are addicted to alcohol, it doesn't matter how expensive your beer gets, you're still going to buy it because you need it. So demand is not going to change for these types of things. So these are just some examples of goods that usually have relatively, or in the short term, pretty inelastic in demand. So we've also got to think of the economy. The economic conditions can have a very strong impact on our firm's pricing strategies. If we're in a boom, if we're in a recession, if we're seeing really high inflation rates, which we've just gotten through, if the interest rates are really high, which they are right now, these are all going to affect our pricing decisions. The economy is going to affect how much the consumers are spending, their perception of product value and price, and our internal costs of actually producing and selling a product. And even if we're not in tough economic times, consumers do not buy based on price alone. So we need to ensure that we're offering good value, not just about price, but about value. We want good value for their money. So let's take a break here, and I will see you guys in our next lesson. Thank you.